How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. So the Cincinnati Bengals, as we know, in search of a big defensive coordinator. Let's be honest here. A big defensive coordinator that can change up this defense and the trajectory of this football team. Now there is the rumors the Bengals do have interest in talking to former Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. Eberflus, known by a lot for having more of a bend but don't break defense, a guy that earned his coaching job because of his defensive abilities while he was the DC of the Indianapolis Colts. A man in his tenure as a coach, defensive coordinator, head coach, 7 years now, he's been a top 10, his defense has been top 10 in takeaways every single year. We've seen this guy put together, what about four or five top 10 defensive units as far as rush yards per game are concerned. Against the pass, a little bit weaker. Lots to say when you're, coaching the Chicago Bears, constantly playing defense. Wears down on a defense. Still, it looked like this season, his third year here, his defense was slowly but surely improving. And you watch what he did with Indianapolis. Indianapolis, a team, he came in there very, very young core. These guys, 22, 23, a lot of guys, 2-3 years into it, half their starting roster around that age. And you look at that, and I think the big thing with Lou Anarumo was he was afraid to get the veterans off the field and get these young guys a chance to play. And that is the number one most important thing for the Bengals, is getting young guys on the football field. You cannot, and I repeat, can't stress it enough. Everybody says Bengals need to quit being cheap and buy and be active in free agency. I tell you what, the Bengals had, again, $9 million in cap space entering this season. Sure, they didn't do the best at signing free agents, but that's going to be free agency. You're going to have hit and misses. Sheldon Rankins coming into the season looked like a great pickup. Fell to pieces. That's free agency. Guys going to free agency playing their best ball in contract years. Happens in every sport. They get older. Injuries happen. It can be difficult to build a sports team through free agency. Bengals have been primarily doing that outside of T. Chase, Jamar, Joe Burrow. They've had a very hard time developing other positions, specifically in the trenches. And you need that ever so desperately if you want to be a serious contender in the NFL, because that's why they don't have cap space. It's easy to look at the Bengals and say, wow, they're being cheap. They won't keep, Jesse Bates. They won't keep DJ Reader. It's like, well, you paid Jesse Bates $17 million. You're $8 million in the hole in the cap. Somebody's got to go. Was it going to be Orlando Brown Jr.? Because that probably. You want to make it that much weaker on the offensive line? Probably not. You even now the Bengals say, hey, you can cut Kappa, you can cut Sam Hubbard or Sheldon Rankins, sure. But think about this. Think about how much the Bengals are paying Sam Hubbard for his production, how much you're paying Sheldon Rankins for his production. You're going to go into free agency and expect to pay more than that. If you want better than that in those positions, you're not going to go out and draft every single one of those positions. And that is why we've always said, hey, the cap spending in free agency, I don't think it's the answer. You go to free agency do what the Bengals did during the Super Bowl runs the first couple of years. You methodically, Trey Hendrickson, elite pickup, but then you kind of methodically pick up these pieces that fill voids that are really good in certain areas. Mike Hilton, for example, specialist at run blitzing, getting into the passer in the slot. There's guys like that. They don't cost as much. They specialize in areas versus trying to get these complete football players all around, because you draft the complete football players. And then you get these specialty guys that can really fill the holes in certain areas along that. And I think, hey, there's a couple things you wonder is, hey, has the Bengals been struggling drafting defensively? Something that, historically, really, besides in the first round, they haven't done that bad of a job at. They've been struggling to draft defensively, or is it just not good coaching giving these guys a chance to play? Because what they need right now is a coach that is going to play the young guys, that is going to develop the young guys more than anything. Because that's what's going to come through the system. We just broke down a cap situation, right? You got to be able to draft these young guys. You got to be able to play your current young guys. And you have to be able to not only do that, you have to be able to develop them into solid, formidable football players. And Matt Eberflus, again, say what you will with him on the Bears, proved that he could do that with the Indianapolis Colts. And for that, he is he's a very interesting potential add for the Bengals. I do think we're at that point where we got to quit. I love it. I do. I love taking the guys that haven't had the opportunity before, because to me, it's like, hey, these guys have been fired for a reason. But at this point in juncture in the Joe Burrow tenure and the Bengals tenure, it's time where they try to bring in some experience, some guys that can, we know what they're capable of doing versus taking those chances. You just can't continue to take chances on Zach Taylors and give them 5 years, 6 years of an opportunity with Joe Burrow. Your window is now, right? You got to be able to get some of these guys and hopefully upgrade in the coaching department in certain areas to elevate this team. For that, I like the man. It scares me what the Bengals organization is why they don't go after a guy like Robert Saleh. They've already said they don't have interest. Two of the top defensive coordinator options out there, they don't have interest in. Why? Because of the money? Because if he goes out there and turns the defense around in 1 year, if anybody comes in here and turns this Bengals defense around in 1 year to a top 10 defense, there's a very good chance they're out the door. Because that's a heck of a football coach to do it in 1 year. And you do worry about that with Saleh. You also worry about, is it the money? Because we know he's a defensive mastermind. I just don't understand if he's the Bengals, because he's interviewing for some head coaching jobs. I know he's with the Raiders, but he also interviewed for a DC job in San Francisco, a team that has been as dominant defensively as San Francisco respects this man. I don't know why. If you're the Bengals, people say, well, you're not an owner, you're not a GM, you don't know anything. It's like, okay, 49ers know a lot. If I was to respect an organization for their coaching staff and their abilities to develop a complete football team, the 49ers are at the top of the list. They're doing things with Brock freaking Purdy. It doesn't matter who their quarterback is. They seem to be productive up until this season. So you wonder why the Bengals would not be trying to talk to any and everybody here. If I was Saleh, that's where I'd want to be, as Cincinnati. If his goal is to be a head coach again in the league and nobody's giving him an offer now, I'm going straight to Cincinnati, because if I can turn the Bengals around into a good defense quickly, I'm going straight back to a head coaching job. You go to a team that's already got a solid defense, a good defense, people might look and say, well, they got this and this and this. It's like, well, how much, maybe we'll give it a year or two. You turn the Bengals around in a year, come on over. So I don't know the whole story behind that. Can't say that I agree with it, but that is what it is. As far as Eberflus goes, though, I'm open to it. I'd like to see what else the Bengals can walk into the door. It's early still. You don't want to just jump at the first thing. But I do really like the idea of having a defensive coordinator that has a track record of developing and winning and playing good football with a young core. Very important. We'll see what happens. Love y'all's thoughts. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I appreciate you liking and subscribing. You never have to. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.